morning, welcome back to my channel. As usual, I'm going to kick off with what's for the basket. A while ago I had a problem with the new recipe for all bran, and some of you in the comments said try Asda's high bran, and I have. This is probably the second or third box we've bought. So I'm putting one in the basket this week because I actually like it. I really like it as much as I like the old all bran. And it's about £1 cheaper. But you can get 50 grams of this Asda high bran for one healthy extra B. And it's working for me, mixing it with my soya Greek Alpro yogurt for breakfast. Okay. The Slimming World question of the week that I want to answer. Again, it relates to me. I'm talking about things that I've had to work through and ask myself. But the question is, how do I know how much protein I need to feel satiated and fuller for longer? Well, I used a simple method that I found on the internet, which was to take 1.2 grams of protein for every kilogram of body weight. I weigh 66.7 kilograms. So that means I need around 80 grams of protein. I try to aim a bit higher than that, somewhere between 80 and 100. And I have to say, I think it works for me because I do feel satiated. I'm never hungry. And I'm kind of gradually learning how much protein is in different things. You know, how much protein is in my chicken, how much protein is in an egg, how much You can ask these questions of Google or whichever method you use, ChatGPT or whatever, but be careful because they don't always get the answers right. But for me, it's an ongoing part of working this plan, because I know that if I was hungry, I wouldn't stick with the plan in the way I do. Right, did anybody else listen to the podcast this week? It was about plant power. I know some people did. I actually found it quite interesting, albeit a bit basic, because we know we need to eat fruit and vegetables, because that's the majority of our free food and our speed-free food. What I found interesting was Carolyn Pallister, who's a nutritionalist from Slimming World, was talking about the fact that ideally we need 30 plus different fruits and vegetables, pulses, spices, herbs in a week. And I sit down and think, that sounds an awful lot. I mean, we used to talk about 5 a day, and I think now a lot of people talk about 9 a day. But we need 30 different or 30 plus different ones. And if you're using herbs, a herb would count as a quarter of one. And I'm assuming she means by that dried herbs. So if you were using fresh herbs like cilantro or parsley, things like that, maybe they count as more of a full choice. But adding it up, do I hit 30 different choices? I don't think I do most weeks because I like what I eat and I eat what I like. But some of the ways she said to get the numbers up were like, don't just buy an iceberg lettuce or a lettuce, buy a bag of mixed leaves, because then you're going to get 4 or 5 different leaves. Yeah, I kind of get that. I don't like all leaves. Well, I don't like many leaves actually. And I'm not sure that having one sprig of watercress in your mixed leaves or one sharp bit of chard actually qualifies as a portion. I don't know how they equate that really. Other than to say we need variety. And so for me, things like apples, I switch and swap around apples. I am at the moment buying russets, but I'm also buying Kisabel and Cox. So there's 3 different apples. I know for a lot of my friends, Pink Lady is the go-to apple. And if maybe we only ever have a Pink Lady apple, or if we only ever have a Jazz apple, or if we always buy Braeburn, maybe we're limiting our taste. I've been trying to try different apples from Marks and Spencer's, and I must admit that Kisabel this week have been pretty sour. But I'll keep going with that. I might try something different today. But I did ask the question in group, which they asked in the podcast, which was, what is your favourite vegetable? Anna immediately answered potatoes, and then backpedaled a bit and changed it to butternut squash. I don't think Claire really answered it, but Carolyn Pallister said red peppers. But I'm going to ask you that question. What is your favourite vegetable? When I asked the question in group, nearly everybody said a fruit. That really surprised me. The vast majority of the room, I would say 80% of the room, said a fruit. I asked, what is your favourite vegetable? Now, mine, well, cauliflower and garlic would be my favourite veg. I have garlic every day, and plenty of it. But it made me stop and think how often, cauliflower is my favourite vegetable, how often do I eat it? Not often enough. I can go a whole week and not touch it, I can go a fortnight and not touch it, but it's actually my favourite vegetable. Winter's coming and our vegetable choices change with the seasons, don't they? Because a lot of people would have been into salads and they're now moving into more winter veg. Seasonal eating is good. That's something Carolyn would have recommended, and also different colours of vegetables is good for us. But when we talk about food optimising in group, do we focus enough? We're supposed to talk now, you know, in the period in group. Do we focus enough on what we actually eat on plan to give each other ideas? I don't think we do. I mean, we do a lot of talk at the moment about avocados. I'd love to talk more about food optimising, and when people say, oh, I have a ham salad, what's in your salad? Maybe we should, I know I need to think more about the choices I'm making and the variety I'm getting in. I'm just, yeah, I'm in a place where I find group is a bit limiting. I want to talk more about food optimising, and I thought that was the plan with the new changes, that we would discuss food optimising. I'm not being nosy, it's not because I want to know what everybody else eats. I want to talk about the plan, because it's the plan that is saving my life. So if anybody's interested in putting in the comments, what is your favourite vegetable? And please don't say raspberries or strawberries. They're fruits. And please don't say avocado. It's a fruit. I particularly want to look at, going into the winter, can we put in the comments below some winter vegetables that might inspire people? You know, Calvo Nero, different things that we might see in the shops, celeriac. And I'm sure lots of you eat those things. Okay, so that's a point. And if you didn't listen to the podcast, have a listen. It's quite interesting. My next point, the World Health Organization. I was listening to a video this week by a guy I really respect called Dr. David Unwin, who is from Southport. Now, David was quite linked to the sort of low-carb fraternity. I'm not a low-carb person. I eat plenty of carbs every day. But I think David's interest in that came from the fact that he wanted to help his patients. He's a GP. He wanted to help his patients get away from diabetes, and he doesn't totally indulge in the GLP-1 jabs. Way before the GLP-1s came on the scene, David was helping people get into remission from diabetes by dropping their carbs. And he's had amazing success at his practice in Southport. And also he's helped a lot of people, and he's cut his drug bills by something like £70,000 a year. Not his personal bills, his practice bills. And his wife, who's called Dr. Jen Unwin, is probably the top expert in this country on food addiction. So if you can find her on YouTube, both of them are on YouTube. I think I saw an interview with Peter McCormick, if that's his name, with David talking about this, and Jen is campaigning and pushing at the moment for the World Health Organization to recognise food addiction, which they don't. They recognise alcohol addiction, drug addiction, they recognise addiction to cigarettes, they even recognise addiction to gambling. But the World Health Organization, which rules the health of the world, does not recognise food addiction. And I can only speak for myself, but I know, looking back over my life, that I had a lot of addictive behaviours around food. I'm not saying I was addicted to this substance or this substance or this substance, but I do know that over probably the last 30 or 40 years, I've had a lot of addictive behaviours around food. As I've moved forward with Slimming World, my taste has changed dramatically. My habits have changed dramatically. By the grace of God today, I do not eat for my emotions, and I don't eat compulsively. That's just for today. I'm not saying I'll never do it again. I wouldn't put that on myself. But just for today, I choose not to. Like, just for today, somebody who was an alcoholic would say, you know, I'm not going to drink. But it surprises me that the World Health Organization in the 21st century does not recognise addiction to highly processed foods. And I think that is, for a lot of people, including me, where the problem can start. If I look back to when I was young, and I mean I'm 69 now, but if I look back to when I was in my teens or a child, we didn't have all this highly processed food. It wasn't a problem. We had 3 meals a day. We didn't have a lot of snacks. It was something quite amazing if you got a packet of Smith's crisps back then. Chocolate was, well, not something we had every week. It was special. But as we've moved on in life and things have got to be less expensive and companies have got to be more focused on profit making, highly processed sweets, chocolates, cakes, we never had a shop cake when we were kids. If we had cake at home, it was made by my mum or my grandma. I can remember when McVitie's brought in a box with a round cake in it, and my mum was amazed, and she bought one, and then we never bought another one because she said, that's rubbish. That's nothing like the cakes that I make. But now, how many of us would bake a cake? I know some people do, you make a birthday cake for your kids or your grandkids, but how many of us would choose to bake a cake, or would we just pop into Sainsbury's or Asda or Lidl and pick something up? Because it's convenient and we're often very busy. And I know that when we walk into Lidl, our local Lidl, the smell of the bakery absolutely revolts me. I would say it to Joe every time we go in. All I can smell is a mixture of chocolate and cheese. Never thought about why. But looking back over the last few years of doing Slimming World, what was the thing I always reached for if I was stressed, if I was emotional? It was dairy. I've always had a thing about cheese. I've done cheese diets in the past. I used to live on cheese and coleslaw and think it was a really good diet. Cheese and coleslaw 3 times a day. Could lose weight on that as long as I weighed it. Ridiculous. But today, when I look back over what I was doing, which put the weight back on me while Val was poorly, so that period leading up to May last year, when I regained about 5+ stone, what was I doing? Everything I reached for and didn't realise at the time had dairy in it. I was buying litre cartons of Madagascar custard, literally cutting the end off and drinking it out of the carton like people drink orange juice. Joe used to have goat's cheese in his fridge, and I would go and just take a block of this goat's cheese, and I would guess it was around 8 ounces or something. And I would just unwrap it, sit with it in my hand and just eat it like it was a biscuit or a cake or something. And then when I'd finished it, within 20 minutes, I'd be back in his fridge nicking another one. And milk, I could drink litres of the stuff and it always gave me bellyache. When I look at the times I've eaten things like Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which I think is very nice if you like that kind of thing, and I'm not saying don't entertain these things, but I'm saying what they did to me. I don't like ice cream. how come I could eat 2 tubs? I'm amazed today to say that without consciously thinking about it, as my plan has evolved over the last 16 months, that if I wrote down everything I eat today, or everything I've eaten for maybe the last 3 or 4 months, there's no dairy in any of it. Now, is that because I'm breaking addictive patterns, or is that because my body doesn't crave it anymore because I've moved far enough away from it? Or is it because I've actually learned and realised that I don't really like it? I was asking Joe earlier about, the addictive properties of dairy, and as Joe says, we aren't experts in these things, but I do know that my older brother, who was only 11 months older than me, he's passed away now, but when we were kids, he couldn't have anything with dairy in. If he'd had a glass of milk, he'd have been off school for days. He couldn't stand the smell of butter, and I used to think he couldn't smell of anything. We used to do that buttercup thing where you put buttercup under your chin. There's no yellow on him, there was yellow on me. But he was so allergic to dairy that from 5 years old he drank black coffee and black tea. And it's weird when you look back on it, these things can be genetic, allergies, intolerances or whatever. But today I choose unsweetened oat milk, and I love my coffee. But I honestly don't think I could drink it with cow's milk in it. No, I don't want it. But I'm just aware of, maybe for years I had a lactose problem and didn't know. Maybe I'm speculating. But the freedom I found today through following the plan and looking at the alternatives on an A choice to actually having cheese and cow's dairy, that I can now have all these, not all of them because I don't like all of them, but I can now have a dairy alternative and thoroughly enjoy it. So I'd have 2 A choices, each of 300 mils of unsweetened oat milk, and love my coffee because Slimming World gives me choices. But if you enjoy full fat milk, you can have 200 mils for an A choice. If you enjoy good strong cheddar cheese, you can have 30 grams. And the new choices that they're bringing in with the healthy fat options and the fibre options and that, it's giving us more choice and more freedom. And we are unique individuals, and I'm loving that. The next thing I want to talk about, I'm going to mention 2 other vloggers. And because I watched Leanne from Fat Loss Story yesterday, interesting video, the weight loss update. And then last night I watched Luke John, interesting video, weight loss update. But Luke commented on something that Leanne had said in her video, and it made me sit up and take notice because I thought, I get that. I really get that. Leanne had commented on the fact that people were struggling, or people didn't necessarily like the fact that she's been getting a lot of awards and recognition because she's at a brilliant weight loss stage in her journey. And Luke picked that up, and he also said similar things have happened to him in the past in group. We're talking about in group. So he's had people comment to him in group as a bloke, oh, it's easy for you, you're a man. Men lose weight easier than women. I don't know. Maybe that's why men are allowed more sins. But the point I want to make is about what we hear in group, about what is said in group. And I felt for both of these vloggers, I felt for both of these Slimming Worlders, because I had somebody in group say to me a few weeks ago, haven't you lost enough weight? And she said it in a nice way, but inside it made me cringe because I thought, I can't see myself in a mirror and I don't want to be judged by other people who can see me. What I was thinking that Luke and Leanne and myself have in common is that we're all loud and proud. We're not shrinking violets. None of us will be afraid to speak up in group. I am probably one of the most verbal people in Slimming World in my group. I know Leanne has said the same. I know Luke John has said similar. They're not afraid to speak out. But we don't do that to blow our own trumpets. We just do that because we're confident people. And I just wanted to say something along the lines of, be so careful what you say to other people in group, because we're supposed to be in a non-judgmental environment. Now, we don't have men in our group. They'd be very welcome. They just don't seem to want to come on a Tuesday morning. But have I said that to men over the years? I might have done. I might have said it's easier for you because you get 25, 30, 35 sins and I only get 15. But in all honesty, 15's enough for me. And I don't do a very heavy physical job like a lot of men do. Not all men do a very heavy physical job. But I think we've got to be inclusive. With Leanne talking about, people commenting on her getting awards and, probably like that attitude of you again, or whatever. The only reason Leanne gets awards is because she's putting the work in, she's losing the weight. And it took me back to that phrase that Joe uses. What's it, Joe? The magic one. The magic you're looking for is in the hard work you're avoiding. So when somebody tells you, it's all right for you, getting another award or whatever, maybe they need to look back at themselves and say, why is she in that place and not me? Why is he in that place and not me? Why is she losing consistently when she's putting the work in? And I know in my group, I'm known as a person who aims to lose half a pound a week. That works for me. But there are people in my group who could do better than that or could do equal to me. I'm not judging them. Their weight loss does not include me. Their weight loss does not affect me. And to be perfectly honest with you, I've got enough to focus on working my plan in the way I work it. So I just want to say, be very careful about what you say to somebody in group, because we're all sensitive in our own ways, we're all vulnerable in our own ways, and we do not deserve to be knocked off the plan. And I came out of group when somebody said, haven't you lost enough weight, whatever. I thought, you don't even know what I weigh. You don't know anything about me other than the gobby woman who sits here once a week. And I'll decide when I've lost enough weight with the help of a healthy BMI. That's the way I work it. But I would never dream of saying to anybody in group, don't you think you should try a bit harder? What I'm saying is, don't judge anybody else, but also don't compare yourself to anybody else. And to Luke and Leanne, just think sorry. Because the bottom line is, it's your journey. And Leanne, you should not be thinking about, being a shrinking violet. Be yourself. And Luke, you're a bloke. Speak up in group. Be accountable. We've got the freedom of working this plan as individuals. We're not responsible to anybody else. Right, my weight loss result this week. Last week, I'd quoted, I think, on one of my videos, you have to walk 11 and a half hours to lose a pound. And I'd heard that from Lisa, and I had it confirmed from somebody else because they'd seen it on the internet. Thanks, Eva. And I think I said, I walk way longer than that in a week. And I was quite, not upset, I wasn't sensitive about it, but I had a half pound gain. And I know that where I am at on this journey, even when I'm 100% on plan, which I want to be, and I am, I can have gains, I can have maintains. It's called life. And it's not life getting in the way, it's the body's natural balances. So I went into group this week thinking, what did I do differently? Nothing really. Didn't have as many noodles, but didn't do anything differently. Ate according to the plan, ate my sins, had my 2A choices, my B choice, stood on the scale, and was only half focused when I heard the consultant say 2.5 pounds. And I said, what? I've put 2.5 pounds on. And she said, no, you've lost 2.5 pounds. Now that doesn't happen to me. That just doesn't happen to me. I'll take it, I'm grateful. It takes me down to 9 stone 7, which is fine. No, it doesn't. It takes me down to 10 stone 7. God, Jane, be careful what you say. I'm 10 stone 7 and that is fine. But it just shows you, this thing that consultants say in group, stick to plan 100%, you're guaranteed a weight loss. Well, I stuck to plan 100%, 2 consecutive weeks. The first week I gained ½ a pound, the second week I lost 2.5 pounds, which, as I say, is very unusual for me. When I rejoined after I'd gained 5.5 stone, I only lost 1.5 pounds. I don't retain water. So, yeah, that's just to share my result this week. We'll see where it takes me on Tuesday. I'm carrying on as normal. I'm not going to let anything knock me off plan because I feel too good doing it. My life has changed dramatically and I'm not the obsessive person I used to be. Joe's going to put up a couple of pictures because I think it's about a year since I started vlogging again. So there's a picture of me from October last year and he'll put it up with a picture of me from my video today. And then he'll tell me if you can see the difference. Okay, everybody, have a great week and we'll see you next weekend. Bye.